Today's episode of the Nick Taylor Horror Show is brought to you by Diabolic DVD. For almost 20 years, Diabolic DVD has been the source for horror, cult, and weird cinema to customers around the world. Diabolic offers a one-stop shopping experience for all of your favorite labels, including Arrow, Synapse, Vinegar Syndrome, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Blue Underground, 88, and many more from all corners of the globe. So whether you're looking for the definitive version of Suspiria or trying to upgrade your crusty old DVD of Cannibal Holocaust, Diabolic is the owner-operated small business choice you've been craving. Shop online at diabolicdvd.com. That's DIABOLIK DVD.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Rue Morgue Magazine. Subscribe to Rue Morgue for award-winning insight into the world and culture of horror, from books, movies, and comics to music, collectibles, and classics, featuring the latest film, book, comic book, music, game, toy releases, and more delivered to your door. Guillermo del Toro called it the best damn magazine in the genre. Subscribe to Rue Morgue, the horror magazine of the 21st century, by visiting www.rue-morgue.com. Welcome to the Nick Taylor Horror Show. Damien Leone is a household name among horror fans and the director of one of the most talked about horror movies of recent times, Terrifier. Terrifier's star, Art the Clown, is on the fast track to slasher stardom and is without a doubt the most iconic movie slasher in decades. All you have to do is observe the rampant amount of fan art and the alarming numbers of tattoos of Art the Clown to know that this is a true horror icon. And he's just getting started. The character of Art the Clown has actually been developed by Damien over the course of 3 films. Having started as a minor character in a short called The Ninth Circle, Art then went on to star in his own short, also called Terrifier, before being adapted into a full-length feature called All Hallows Eve, which compiled the 2 previous shorts into a VHS-style anthology, bookended with another wraparound story, also starring Art the Clown. The many iterations of Art the Clown have allowed the character to be polished and refined to the point where it seems we horror fans just might have gotten the next great slasher franchise we've all been waiting for. I chatted with Damien pretty extensively about the long-awaited Terrifier 2 and what it holds in store for us. So here for your listening pleasure is Damien Leone. You haven't wrapped yet on Terrifier 2, right?
Not yet. We have approximately 5 to 6 days left.
Okay, got it. So you're getting really close.
We're very close. I mean, we're pretty much there.
That's great, man. Really, really great. So how's the experience been so far? It seems like you guys have been shooting for a while, right?
We've been shooting forever. We've been shooting since the couple of days before Halloween.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So, I mean, we've been, we do chunks, like we do maybe like 4 to 5 days at a time. And then a lot of times I have to break because I'm doing the majority. I'm pretty much doing all the special effects with me and my producer, Phil. And it's a really heavy burden. So there's a lot of times we got to just stop and regroup and start building stuff and prepping for the next few days. So that's one of the reasons why it's taken so long.
Got it. But you still have a hand in all the special effects and you're building everything yourself, which... It's cool. It's got to be stressful, but I mean, it's
very stressful. But you make sure you do it right. I know what the people are, the fans are hoping for and what they're expecting. So we're trying to raise the bar a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, we tried. I mean, I really tried to hire a crew this time, and we were very close. And at the last second, like literally 2 weeks before we started filming, the crew pulled out because they weren't happy with the amount of money and the amount of work.
Oh man.
So it was just a scramble for me to really just hit the ground running and be like, all right, we got to do this.
So at the last minute, you had to figure out that you found out that you had to build everything yourself.
I
Not only build it, but execute it on set and everything.
Oh yeah. And I was really hoping this time that I could at least hire a crew to apply the Art the Clown prosthetic this time, because that is just. I mean, that takes an extra 3 hours every morning before I have to go into a 14+ hour day of shooting. So it's grueling. And And especially in this one, who plays Art, David Thornton, has already been on for about 30 days. That's a lot just for his character. So that's a lot of application time in the makeup chair, just for his prosthetic, not counting the effects, the murder scenes and all the kill scenes and all that stuff.
Right.
So it's a lot. But yeah, I mean, I was coming in doing, ready to do half of the effects, and I was hiring a crew to do the other half because there's so many. But yeah, so I had to basically take it all on, me and my buddy Phil. So thank God.
So Phil's also doing the effects as well, or was helping with the effects?
No, I mean, he helps me he loves learning how to do it, and he just loves working. So if there's ever any downtime, he just loves to be there. And him and his wife, Lisa, they let me turn his basement basically into our makeup studio. So, yeah, I mean, it's amazing. They're the best. They're so supportive.
That's so cool. And that's Phil Falcone, your producer since day one.
Day one. Yep. Still there.
That's awesome, man.
Every step of the way. Cooking on set for the crew. Like, it's insane.
Wow. Yeah, I've been seeing the photos of you guys on set. You just constantly look like you're having a blast, the two of you.
We are having fun. I mean, it's tough, but we're surrounded by such an amazing group of people who have really stuck it out this far because they're just passionate and great people. They love working on it. So we're really lucky. Really lucky.
That's great, man. And you guys are filming in New York, right?
Yep. New York, New Jersey, primarily in Canajoharie, New York. Mm-hmm. Like an hour and a half past Albany.
Yeah.
Because Phil had bought some property up there. He bought a big barn, and that's where we built a lot of our sets. There's a lot of sets in this one.
Nice.
So that's been cool. Unfortunately, it's been freezing in there. And we tried so hard to get heat in there. There's like a giant wood burning furnace and all these kind of things. And eventually we had to just start bringing, propane heaters into the rooms and doing it the old fashioned way because nothing was working.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow. Nothing's easy, is it, when it comes to filmmaking?
This has been, without a doubt, the hardest experience of my life as a filmmaker, but without a doubt.
Whoa.
Yeah.
More so than Terrifier 1.
Times 100.
Wow.
Yeah. It's insane. It's been so insane.
People might think that since you have a higher budget for this one, that things might be a little easier, but obviously the scope is a little bit bigger. You're building on the world a little bit more, and with that comes a lot more complications and potential for disaster, it sounds like.
100%. And that's, I joke around saying this is like the apocalypse now of indie horror movies. I mean, obviously not even close, but because I'm obsessed with that documentary Hearts of Darkness. But it's been like that. It's been so insane, and there's just been crazy. I mean, there's been like, since we've been shooting this for like, what is it, 6 months now or whatever. I mean, we've had like 9. Thank God, no serious injuries, but there's been like 9 car accidents, like all sorts of crazy happenings on set just because of how long we've been shooting this.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and just building the sets, and we have stunts, and like I said, crew, pivotal crew members just pulling out at the final hour, and just all kinds of curveballs getting thrown at you. And like that, we're really trying to make it so much. It's so much bigger. Like, I didn't go a little bit. Like, I had to go like way out there. So we took a lot of risks with this one. I mean, I can't give a lot of spoilers away, but the story goes in like a radically extreme direction. But we stay true to what people loved about the first one, So hopefully it's unlike any slasher you've seen before, but it reminds you of the ones you grew up loving at the same time. That's my goal.
Yeah, and that was the beauty of the original Terrifier. I think it reminded you of that time period and those slashers, but it didn't feel overtly throwbacky, which some slashers do. It was that balance of, this feels familiar, but it's different. It's taking the whole thing into a new direction.
I try. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I think there's a lot of movies where, like you just said, they try and capture that exploitation vibe, but it doesn't quite feel genuine. It's almost like a tongue-in-cheek kind of like, I think if you can genuinely get there because it's true to who you are, I think that's when it really, really works. I mean, hopefully I can do that. But
no, I think you can tell if somebody's trying to do something for the sake of being campy, and it just falls so flat as far as I'm concerned. The big exception being the Grindhouse movies with Rodriguez and Tarantino, but
big inspiration, those two. But yeah, I mean, because like the original, the old school grindhouse movies, though, they were a lot of times like inadvertently cheesy because of like limitations and, you know, you didn't, whatever the case. I mean, but that gave it some of the charm. I mean, they weren't really constantly winking at the audience all the time. So yeah, that's what I hope to do.
Nice. So have you been documenting the making of Terrifier 2, or do you have your own Hearts of Darkness on the way?
I think we do. I mean, I started with that in mind going into this. I bought a little camera and I was bringing it everywhere and filming everything. And before you know it, I could not even think about that anymore. I just got so consumed by everything I had to do. But thankfully, everybody on set now just has their phone out and they're just constantly recording, you know, horizontally, thank God. So, and in, you know, good quality. So I'm sure with all of the footage, we can make some pretty amazing documentary behind the scenes.
Yeah, that would be cool. There's a documentary about Rob Zombie making Devil's Rejects called 30 Days in Hell. It came with his like a rare box set, and then it comes with that. You saw that?
I watch it repeatedly.
It's
one of my favorite things. Yeah. I'm always watching behind the scenes
nice
things, commentaries and stuff. Yeah.
There's a good one for From Dusk Till Dawn, too.
I've seen that one as well.
Yeah.
Love it.
That one's good as well. But yeah, I mean, just you see these movies and they look like they are so well done, but what people don't realize is how difficult it is to actually, all the shit that goes wrong, you know, all the time.
It's constant. Everything's going to go wrong.
Yeah, a common question I'll ask directors is, was there ever like a dark night of the soul where things get so difficult that you actually consider quitting? And it doesn't sound like you ever considered quitting, but is there anything that was able to help you get through this, just given the difficulty of it all?
Wow. Yes. Yeah. It's a very so that happens all the time. It happens all the time on set. There's a moment, and it's happened since I started doing this as a kid and just making really low budget movies and stuff. You always find yourself at a point where inside you say, "Why am I doing this with my life?" Like because it's like, you're bringing this stress on yourself. Nobody's forcing you to be a filmmaker, and it's so hard. And then you just realize, why? You know, it's like, I should have just, you know, been worked for the fire department or did something, you know, like listen to people and got a city job, and and it's just like, why didn't I do that? Life could have been so much easier. But you just have to power through it and look at the end goal. That's what I always do. I always put myself in like the hardest moment. I put myself 3 months down the line. I just say, I know it's going to be worth it down the line. You're going to feel very, very accomplished. It's something you just have to do. You have to be born wanting to do it. But yeah, I mean, there was definitely a moment where we were filming. It was 2 days back to back. I was up for almost 48 hours. I slept for 2 hours. I napped in the location, and then just woke up and went right into the next day of filming, because we were just filming like the climax, right? And I was just so down. Everybody was so miserable. And we were just in a really dingy, gross environment. And it was very cold, very dirty, like very dusty. And everybody, at that point, everybody's covered in blood. It's all effects and everything like that. And I was so down. And I just looked at my lead actress, who was wearing like the skimpiest Halloween costume. And she's covered in blood at this point. And I look at her, and she was smiling. She just sort of smiled at me, because like I could tell she knew what we were doing was really great. And she was like looking at the finish line. And that smile just really, really got me through the day. Like I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that, because she was suffering more than anybody else. And her name's Lauren Lavera, by the way. And she is just exceptional, unbelievable. I can't wait for people to see her character. But she was really suffering the most out of everybody, because she, like I said, filming in freezing cold locations, and she is just covered head to toe in blood for a majority of the shoot. And I've worked with a lot of actors, who've had to go through the same thing, and they cannot deal with it, and they are not cool. They think they're going to be cool with it until it's time to do it, and then you see them change like Jekyll and Hyde. Wow. Really, yeah. And she's just, she's been the best. So, yeah, so that's a standout moment. But for the most part, I'm, no real daunting my spirits. I'm pretty optimistic and upbeat on set for the most part.
That's good. Yeah, it's amazing how those little things like the smile from a cast member can help power you through these moments. Was there any, I mean, obviously having resilient actors like that who, when it comes to indie filmmaking, know what they're getting into can make or break a movie, obviously. Was there any indication when you were casting that she was resilient and strong and would be able to weather this storm? Anything other directors should look for when they're casting actors other than their performances? Because as good as an actor as they might be, if they crumble, at the sight of difficulty, then it'll fuck your movie up. But
it's true. I got to say, honestly, there's really nothing to prepare, because I've had people where I'm like, oh, this person's going to be great. They're so excited. And then it just like, they fall apart. So I really don't know. But unlike almost every other actor or actress I've worked with, nobody has ever cared for a character as much as she had, almost to the point where she cared more about the character than I do. And it's my favorite character that I've ever written. Whoa. And she would just constantly, email me or call me, text me, and just have endless questions about this character, things that I didn't even think about. And she'd be writing journals and her own story about the character and what she thinks the character. And seeing that for, the 2 months of prep leading up, I was like, oh my God, I mean, this is pretty, looking pretty good.
Awesome.
So yeah. So
that's amazing. That. Yeah, as a director, that's exactly what you want. Is somebody who's going to take the character in different directions that you even considered.
Oh yeah. No doubt. So that was amazing.
Cool. Well, this obviously being Terrifier 2, I'm sure you're thinking what's next for 3, 4, 5, 6, however the franchise goes. Would you ever consider handing it over to a different director?
That's a good question. I don't know. Right now, I would say no. But if because what I have in mind is a solid trilogy. Mm-hmm. So I really do. I already have like the ending of part 3. I pretty much know how I'm going to end the trilogy. And I have a lot of ideas, but there's still a lot of gaps to fill. But I keep saying that if you keep going, you're just going to start repeating yourself. You're going to run. I mean, we put so much into these kills where after part 3, I really don't know what the hell else I could do. Like I'm going to have trouble in part 3 coming up with new crazy kills, So, I don't want the well to run dry. So I think it's better to get out while you still can.
Yeah.
I don't know if people really still love art and they want more, and I come up with something fresh, I might jump back in there. Or if if a studio, at that point I'm just done, but a studio is like, we'll take it off your hands and give you a big check. I mean, maybe. We'll see.
If Blumhouse wants to reboot it.
Yeah.
Nice. So obviously there were some big expectations to fill from an effects and from a kill standpoint for this. Yeah. How did you, and I'm not going to ask you to give any indication as to what those are, but I'm curious as to what your research or inspiration process was for coming up with the new kills for this movie. Did you have the ideas? Did you revisit old horror movies? Did you do any other kind of gruesome research? Like what was your process like for coming up with the new kills?
That's a good question. I'm always looking up sort of twisted medieval torture methods and techniques and seeing how you can fucking really devastate a person. It's tricky because you don't want, I don't want to fall into like Saw territory where it's almost too clever with the way he's killing people. So I like to take things that you've seen many times, just traditional killings, but just do them in a sort of much more intense fashion, or just put a little bit of a spin on it. So there's 2, I mean, there's a lot of kills, but there's 2 of them that are, if we're lucky, that are on the level of the hacksaw scene. One of them we actually started filming. We filmed 1 day of it, but now we have to go in with like the really heavy duty special effects. So even in this break, I'm trying to figure out how to add to it and make it even crazier, because I know that it's going to be really hard to go up against that hacksaw scene. Maybe not even in the execution, just the idea of it was sort of so cool that the idea is going to be hard to top, I think. Yeah. And you also, like, I don't want to just go so over the top just like like where it becomes schlocky.
Right.
Or there's so many things you can do to really sicken people, where it's kind of easy to do it. There's like a way to sort of walk a fine line where you're not really going so far over the top, and it's it's still sort of accessible to people who are like the most hardcore horror fans.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But
no, totally. There's that fine line. If you get into Herschel Gordon Lewis territory, you just check out and you're just like, oh, this is a gore fest, and somehow the kills are not nearly as effective. Like, as much as I love the Saw movies, after a while, they're just fun. And they're not even remotely visceral because you don't feel the kills anymore,
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And and especially in this one, we're trying to really take the time to develop the characters more. Yeah. So, when a lot of characters that hopefully you grow to love, meet their demise, it's a lot more effective in this one. Mm-hmm. So that's something I'm curious to see how that works. If that works the way I intend.
Nice. Do we get more of an origin story on Art at all? And if you don't want to answer, I understand.
Yeah, we definitely explore a little bit of what he's about. There's no doubt about that. I can't go into too much detail. But it's almost hard to talk about the movie because the entire movie is set up on a massive spoiler. So but we do introduce some really interesting characters in this one. Like I said before, we take it into a really radically different direction. I've said this before, so it's not really a spoiler anymore, but it is. So at the end of part one, obviously he kills himself and he comes back. I know that upset some people. Some people did not want him to become supernatural. To me, I feel like these movies can't exist unless the character eventually becomes supernatural.
Right.
Because you really can't have your hero and your villain really go at it and, him not get killed. Even like, it's like, what are you doing? It's got to happen at some point. So I figured get it out of the way, kill him, have him be supernatural, but now really, really explore that element, which a lot of these movies don't do it. They don't really tell you. You don't know what supernatural entity is really bringing back Freddy or Jason. It's just like they just come back. So I'm really trying to make that a character in the film as well.
Oh, interesting. So you're really going into the kind of mythology behind the whatever supernatural forces are keeping Art, Yeah,
correct.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you have some sort of like story Bible where you come up with the entire mythology and house it in one place to keep everybody on the same page?
No, I don't. But I have I'll have like little notepads and stuff that I'll just write ideas in and things like that. But no, but there is a lot of mythology in this film, so to speak. It's took a lot of elements from mythology and things like that, and religion, honestly, and all kinds of. There's a lot of crazy things going on in this one, so I'm very curious to see what people think about it. It's not going to be what they expect, I think.
Really?
In a good way.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. There's a lot of surprises. But again, it is still a total gore fest. I mean, Art the Clown is in almost the entire movie, more so than typically, just like the first one where he was pretty much the star. He's definitely in this one a hell of a lot. I mean, it's cool, man. I'm excited. I wish I could talk more about it. And there's so many things I want to spoil, but I gotta.
Yeah, man, I'm dying to hear it too. How difficult was it approaching this one, considering how iconic Art got so fast? Like after the first one, people were getting tattoos left, right, and center. I mean, there must have been a lot of pressure on you given how iconic Art was and given that so many people were highly anticipating this one. And it sounds like you went above and beyond just giving fans what they wanted, but you wanted to do something different and you wanted to go deeper and you wanted to go unexpected. I mean, what was the process like in figuring out what to do with this one?
Yeah, that's true, man. I mean, because I really, first and foremost, it's like you wanna please the fans, and I do listen. Like a lot of people don't listen to any feedback or anything like that. They won't read comments. I'll read every single comment, every comment, everywhere, every video. They don't, negative comments and critiques. They don't bother me at all because it's either someone trolling or it's someone they're right, and it's like you need to learn from the feedback you're getting, So there's a lot of like backlash for, and I knew this making the first one, but besides like the limitations of the plot and budget and everything that are obvious, the plot, the lack of plot, I knew that was going to be an issue when I was even writing it, but it was more just like an experience, and I wanted to just set up Art the Clown and just like throw him in your face and be like, here, how do you feel about this film?
Yeah.
So I wanted to go in really developing a much greater story this time, and characters that you really became invested in. And it really is about the lead character, Sienna. It's really about her journey in this film, and sort of her discovering why Art the Clown is targeting her specifically, and what role she plays in this whole Terrifier universe. So it's cool. So you're sort of unraveling this mystery with her throughout the course of the film, which is kind of cool.
That's awesome. So before Spielberg does any movie, he watches, I think it's like 4 movies. He'll watch The Searchers. I always forget this. He watches The Searchers, It's a Wonderful Life, Lawrence of Arabia, and damn it, there's one more. Anyway, that's how he approaches, and you can see those movies reflected in Seven Samurai. That's the other one.
Cool. Okay.
Do you have any sort of ritual or movies that you rewatch when you're either writing or approaching a movie?
I don't have any rituals, but it depends. Like, it depends on which stage of filmmaking I'm in. So when I'm writing, all I do all day long when I'm not writing is watching videos of screenwriters talk about their process. Like, I just have to be surrounded by that world. So if I'm doing special effects and I'm sculpting, all I have is videos on in the background of, Dick Smith, Rick Baker, Tom Savini. I need people sculpting. I need to hear them. I need to hear their passion. Like, that gets me fired up. So no, I don't think I have any rituals like that, but like right now I'm just obsessed. I always have been, but like I'm obsessed with David Cronenberg right now. So I'm just on like a David Cronenberg kick, just watching all behind the scenes of A History of Violence. That's been my like favorite thing right now.
I love that one. I love that he's and I loved all of his horror stuff, but when you take a horror sensibility and then you start putting it into dramas, they're really strong. Like Eastern Promises was great.
Yeah. I've seen these all before, but yeah, I'm on. That's like I'm in the later year kick of Cronenberg, and I just started rewatching Dead Ringers because I haven't seen that since I'm like 12. Way too young to appreciate it back then.
I think I was about 12 when I saw that too. I think it was like 12 or 13.
It's extraordinary. That's heavy duty, content, subject matter for a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
So
a lot to unpack there.
Oh yeah. But he's one of the best. He's one of the best. The Fly is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think that's an absolute masterpiece.
Yeah.
The greatest horror movie ever made. Modern horror movie.
I think it's definitely in my top 10 for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the Wayless's effects were unbelievable too. You feel that thing.
Unbelievable. Now let me ask you this question. What do you think that his effects in The Fly were better than Rob Bottin's makeup in Legend? Because they were nominated the same year.
That's a good question. Bottin won it for Legend, right?
He did. No, Chris Wallace.
Oh, Wallace got it? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. Legend, I think Bottin is on a completely otherworldly level than anybody. Not just in terms of ability, but in terms of imagination.
Yep.
What?
I was going to say, that makeup, the Legend, the darkness makeup will hold up till the end of time.
Yeah. I've heard Steve Johnson talk about it, and he put it beautifully, just saying that with something like Legend, Bottin went out on such a limb, and it was such a risk with the way that devil looked, with the big, insane features and that witch. It so easily could have been like goofy or too much.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
But his boldness and walking that tightrope, I think, is what makes those effects so good, is the fact that they're so risky and they so easily could have failed. I gotta go with Legend, man. What do you think?
I go with Legend. Not to take anything away, but there's as a makeup artist, I think looking at Legend, it's easier to create something that's very disgusting, and just it's just like tumors and this and that, and you throw slime in this, but something so beautiful and symmetrical like the devil in Legend is a lot. For me, in my opinion, is a lot harder to construct So I would have to go with Legend.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
not just
To construct it and make it work.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah, that brings up an interesting idea. How has your effects background helped you as a director?
I don't think I would. Well, I don't want to say that, but I mean, like, the special effects got me into directing. So it all started with Tom Savini, his VHS screen grates.
Oh, yeah.
I saw that as a little kid, blew my mind, changed my life. You know, I went to a horror convention when I was 11 or so and bought my first starter makeup kit. And some guy was selling real machetes with the semicircle cut out to do like the classic, make it look like it's stuck in your throat. All that Tom Savini good shit. Went home, started experimenting on my friends, and I never, ever looked back. So it started with makeup. And then, seeing how his effects are made for the screen. I mean, that's the way the illusion works. So then the natural progression was, let me get my hands on a camera and see if I can make these sort of magic tricks work. So then once you start seeing that, and then you get into that world of the magic of filmmaking and editing, and you just see how you put two pieces, cut them together, and this magical thing happens. I mean, that really blew my mind. So that's really, I mean, special effects led into the directing, but my love for directing took over for sure. Because I love the whole picture, creating the whole world, not just the makeup in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and being able to make your own effects, obviously usually effects are one of the big expenses on a film, but the fact that you can do it yourself, you can deal with your entire effects crew quitting at the last minute and you can still make the film happen. I mean, it's got to give you a huge leg up.
Exactly. And we were able to and of course I couldn't put that money that I was going to pay somebody else in my pocket. So I got to do it for free. And then we could put that money in a bunch of other places that we wouldn't have been able to. So that was a huge benefit as well. So there's always an upside. But yeah, I mean, I don't think these movies would exist if I wasn't doing the special effects. We just wouldn't have the money. We wouldn't have I've spoken again, especially on this one. I got, more doors open. I got to speak to bigger people and bigger, makeup artists in the industry. And the numbers that they threw at me were bigger than our budget for the film, and that's, so people have no idea. So yeah, we definitely saved a lot of money with me doing the special effects.
Yeah, I think that was the case with Guillermo del Toro. When he did Kronos, Dick Smith taught him how to do effects, and then he did all of his own effects on Kronos.
Wow. See, I didn't know. I know he started out doing makeup. I didn't know Dick Smith taught him. That's amazing.
Yeah. Dick Smith was a big mentor in his life. He says if it wasn't for Dick Smith, he would not be making movies, just straight up.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's if not the greatest. I mean, he's certainly on the Mount Rushmore. There's no doubt, man. I still think that, well, obviously The Exorcist will stand the test of time. I still think his old age makeup on F. Murray Abraham and Amadeus is just the greatest. That was the first makeup to ever completely fool me as a kid. Even though I was, young teenager, smart enough to be able to point out makeup. But when I saw that movie, I wasn't sure if that was a real old man playing the older version of him at first. It's so good. And the bald cap in Taxi Driver to this day is still one of the just most stunning things. Like, that people don't even realize he didn't actually shave his head and give himself the mohawk.
I know. I didn't even learn that until recently. He totally. I don't know why he wouldn't shave his head, but no, the makeup is perfect. And sorry.
No, I think it was because they shot the movie out of sequence.
Okay.
He actually wears, even when he has like 3 different hairstyles in that film, even when it's like a crew cut it short, or even that's a wig. But yeah, it's just amazing. I mean, Dick Smith came up with a method of literally just like sprinkling with like an atomizer for asthma, just sprinkling little bits of actual hair, like little by little onto the bald cap. So it actually had real stubble. Because up until that point, people would just stubble makeup on it and shit. So, I mean, it's just brilliant. And you can't see any blending edges whatsoever.
No, it's all perfect.
It's seamless. I mean, and they've come out with now like 4K images from the set of Taxi Driver, and you can just see like up close shots of the bald cap, and it is just
still perfect.
Stunning. Yeah.
Yeah, he invented what we now know as prosthetic application techniques. He invented that. Not a lot of people realize that. People were not doing good edges before he came along.
Nope. He invented the breakdown process because everybody would just do like one solid mask, and he figured out how to break down the makeup and have cheeks and a forehead. And you can overlap, and you can blend the prosthetic into itself better than you can like blend it into your skin and stuff. So just revolutionary.
Yeah, totally. I didn't realize there were two cases where I really realized his genius, just with age makeup. Not to mention, everything else was with. I saw a photo of him applying a before and after of Brando and The Godfather. I was like, holy shit! I totally thought he was that old when he did the movie.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and with what's his name, Max von Sydow in The Exorcist, he was like 40 years old in that movie, and he looks like he's about 70.
Had no idea. That's another one. That when you listen to a lot of the great makeup artists talk about Dick Smith, that's their favorite thing that he's done is the Max von Sydow makeup. So, yeah, it's flawless. I mean, he's just I can't believe how good for back then. Just it still all holds up remarkably well today.
So you getting through this time by mostly editing?
Editing nonstop.
Yeah. So you're editing Terrifier 2 single-handedly.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Did you do the first one?
I did the first one. Yeah.
Oh, wow. How is that, editing your own film? Is it something that like Rodriguez edits all of his own films? Is this going to be are you going to want to edit all your own films, you think?
It's always been part of my process just as a film. I don't know how to do it any other way. I love it. It's actually my favorite part of the entire process because there's no clock. I don't have anybody breathing over my shoulder and all this kind of shit. So it's just me by myself. I can have my coffee and I could just watch and you watch the magic happen. So that's my favorite part. So, but like when I was a kid and before I even got my hands on editing software, like I had an old JVC camcorder, didn't know how to edit, like you'd find out methods of people editing with 2 VCRs and doing all this weird shit. I didn't know how to do any of that. So I would in camera edit. So
I did the same thing.
Same thing. All right. People have no idea what the hell that is now. I mean, that's just like an our generation thing. So I still shoot the same way. Like I shoot knowing how I'm going to cut the scene. So there's really no point in me sitting down and telling an editor exactly how I want it to be. It's not like I'm like lost in the woods and I'm hoping an editor can, help me, get me out of there.
You know exactly what you're doing on set because you know how you're going to edit it. That's got to be a big leg up.
Yeah, for the most part, it's not always the case. Doesn't always work. And most of the time you figure out a better way or a different way to do it. But it's all one and the same thing. We're a different generation of filmmakers where, back in the day, it's like you had to focus on like one skill set. That's all you could really do. And you had to go to school to learn. And like you were great at being a cinematographer or being a director or editor. It's like nobody did all of those things. But now everything's so accessible. You can do it all yourself. And, why rely on a bunch of people who are going to probably flake out or not care as much as you're going to care? So, if you're really passionate about it and you love doing it, you're going to wind up doing it better than anybody else can do it for you. So,
yeah, man.
Do as much as you can yourself.
Yeah. That's great advice.
Yeah.
I think I forgot to ask you last time. Is there, obviously when it comes to filmmaking and directing and writing, there's a lot of books on the topic, many of which are written by people who haven't actually done it. So it's a lot of just bullshit in that market. But were there any books or resources other than Tom Savini's Scream Greats video that were formidable for you, either from a writing, directing, filmmaking standpoint?
It was mostly videos for effects. There was a 3-part VHS tape by Rob Berman where it was because I couldn't even follow a lot of the things that Savini was writing about in the book. Like it's really hard to figure that out unless you're actually doing it or seeing somebody do it. But hearing about materials and this amount of time and this working time and this and that and not seeing it happen, very hard to do. So it was the first time I found a video. There were 3-part VHS, and it showed you exactly how to mold someone's face, how to turn it into a positive ultracal cast and sculpting clay, but all the way to running like a foam latex prosthetic and applying it. And that really got me going. That really advanced my special effects skills.
Oh, nice. And that was who? There was Tom Berman who did that?
I think it was Rob Berman.
Yeah, it's a whole family. Yeah.
I mean, the Bermans, it's a whole family. Yeah. But Amazing. So I still use his method of mold making till this day. So, but it was, as far as filmmaking goes, it was just watching movies that I loved by all different filmmakers that I loved, and then trying to imitate or replicate what I was seeing them do. So like, with my JVC camcorder, just like trying to do like quick cuts, jump cuts, all kinds of weird, all weird techniques and like cool things that I was seeing. And I still use a bunch of that stuff to this day, really old school, interesting things. But yeah, just experimenting.
Yeah.
Watching movies and then trying to do what you were seeing. That was it, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. So what's next for you after, other than Terrifier 3, inevitably, what's next for you film-wise?
Yeah, I may want to let Terrifier breathe a little bit before I go back into part 3. And I really, really want to make a zombie film. It's my dream project is an epic zombie film that would be in the Romero world. It would be like somewhere between dawn and day. And, I'm dying to make that.
Nice.
And I want Sylvester Stallone to be in it.
That's awesome.
I think I got something up my sleeve, that could bring something a little unique to the zombie universe for sure.
Nice.
It's my favorite subgenre, of horror movies. I've always had a soft spot for zombies. Dawn of the Dead is like my favorite movie of all time. So
yeah.
It would be a dream. So I'm going to try, but that would be a lot of money. So
I think we're due for a good zombie movie that like kind of gives everybody a new revised sense of appreciation for the genre. Because everybody's talking about zombie fatigue now, but the right movie can totally change that.
I agree. I mean, there's clown fatigue. It doesn't matter. If you just come out, you got to come out with something good. That's it.
Yeah.
If it's good, they'll watch it. They'll appreciate it. So, yeah, man.
Well, cool, man. Any parting advice for those aspiring filmmakers out there who are listening?
It's the most cliche thing, but just do it. I say it all the time. That's the hardest thing for people, is to just really just get out there. I think there's just a fear of getting off your ass and actually doing the work, but it's the only way it's going to get done. It's the only way it's going to get done, man. Just do it. There's no excuse. Like I said, everything is accessible. You can shoot a movie on your phone. You can edit it. Everything's cheap. So just if you really, and I say this, which is like, a lot of people don't want to hear this, but I feel like, for me anyway, like I knew that being a filmmaker, when I think by the time I was about 16, I knew it was the only thing I wanted to do with my life, no matter what. So, and responsible people in your life, your family and close friends, they'll all tell you like, yeah, that's great, but have a backup plan and, think about getting a real job, especially when things don't start happening for you. Now you're going into your 30s and things like that. Doesn't matter. You have to me, it's like the minute you have a safety net, you're going to stop trying. Like you have to be fucking scared. It has to be the only thing you're willing to do, and nothing's going to stop you from doing it. Absolutely nothing. You got to be willing to die or end up on the streets because that's what you want to do. So I say that to people, if that's how you feel, then you can really achieve your goals. I mean, but you have to stick with it. You absolutely have to stick with it. Yeah. And always be better. Always be better. Always be learning and listen to people, listen to feedback, accept criticism, learn from failure. I always learn from failure. I embrace failure. I really, really do. So
cool. Wise words, brother. Thank you.
Dude, thank you. This was fun, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Good catching up. All right. Real fun conversation there. So I actually did an interview with Damien in Dread Central a few years back right after he made Terrifier. So definitely check that out if you enjoyed this conversation. But I'm going to read some key takeaways from that earlier conversation because they really hit on some great lessons in horror filmmaking. So here we go. Number 1, make something that stands out and gets people talking. In a market flooded with unoriginal copycat concepts, your film needs to have something notably different that will get people talking. In the case of Terrifier, this was the strong special effects, handcrafted by Damien himself, and the grisly but inventive violence. Number 2, learn a complementary skill. Damien's background as a special effects artist not only opened doors for him in the ways of meeting producers, but enabled him to make Terrifier shine above larger budgeted movies because he did all the effects himself. Number 3, deliver the gore, but be classy about it. The gore in Terrifier stood out chiefly among most other recent horror movies, but despite its brutality, Damien still showed some artful restraint through the use of cutaways and editing, even during the film's centerpiece hacksaw scene. To avoid getting into the Herschel Gordon Lewis / torture porn territory, show the audience what they want to see, but avoid holding on the shot for too long. It's a real fine balance that can make or break the efficacy of your kill scenes. Anyway, guys, thanks as always for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, it'd mean the world to me if you shared it with your friends and family on social media. Don't forget to follow the show on Instagram at I'm Nick Taylor, that's I am Nick Taylor, and on Twitter at the same handle. Thanks again for listening to The Nick Taylor Horror Show.